All right, let's dive in. Today we're tackling Procter Gamble.
P&G.
Yeah, P&G. The company behind, well, pretty much everything in your bathroom and laundry room. Tide, Pampers, Crest, the list goes on.
Oh yeah, you can't escape them.
Seriously. But the thing is, they haven't just been around forever. They've been hugely successful for most of that time. So we're going to try to figure out how a company that big stays relevant for so long. We've got these excerpts from a P&G case study. Should be pretty interesting.
Right, and for a long time, P&G, they were more than just selling products. It was an image, the perfect American home, that was P&G.
Totally. Like they were selling the dream along with the soap.
Exactly. And they nailed it too. They became the gold standard for quality, innovation, even their employees, the Proctoids.
The Proctoids, right.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't get a nickname like that unless you're serious about the company.
Absolutely. Dedicated workforce, believed in what they were doing.
And you can see why with the products they were putting out. Tide, the first heavy-duty detergent, like game changer.
Oh, huge.
Crest, for the fluoride, bye-bye cavities, and then Pampers, I mean, disposable diapers. Talk about revolutionizing parenting.
Yeah, they weren't just products. These were innovations, changed how people lived.
But even the biggest companies,
Yeah.
they can stumble. And even in the 90s, there were some early warning signs for P&G.
Oh, yeah. When you're on that kind of winning streak, it's easy to miss the signs.
For sure.
But they were there.
So what were they seeing?
Well, P&G, they were in acquisition mode, big time. Alan Lafley was CEO then.
Lafley, okay.
And he was snapping up brands left and right. Gillette, Clairol, even IM's pet food.
Wow. They weren't messing around.
No, it seemed like they were unstoppable. But under the surface, things were changing. Sales of their core products, those iconic brands, they were slowing down.
Oh, interesting.
And the competition, they were getting more aggressive.
Makes sense. Everyone wants a piece of the pie.
Exactly. It's that classic thing, a company gets so big, so successful, and they kind of lose sight of what matters.
The customer.
The customer.
Okay, so things are getting a little wobbly for P&G. And then comes Dirk Yeager, CEO from 1999 to 2000, wants to shake things up, radical change. But didn't quite work out, did it?
It was, well, imagine trying to steer a giant ship in a hurricane. That was Yeager's time at P&G. He launched all these new products, expensive products, and they just flopped.
Like what? Give me an example.
Alestra, remember Alestra?
The fake fat stuff.
Yeah, they put it in Pringles.
Oh, yeah. I remember that. Didn't it have some side effects?
Let's just say it wasn't popular. And then on top of that, he did all these reorganizations, confused everyone, sent investors running for the hills. P&G's stock plummeted, like 52%.
Ouch, that's gotta hurt. So what do you do when your big vision backfires and you lose half the company's value in a year?
Well, in P&G's case, you call in the superhero, Alan Lafley, back from retirement to save the day.
So they brought Lafley back.
Back for round 2.
Wow, that's a big vote of confidence.
Desperate times, right? But it was a smart move. The board knew Lafley, he got P&G, their strengths, and he knew exactly what needed fixing. That inward focus. Remember those executive offices up on the 11th floor, all fancy and isolated?
Yeah, classic corporate setup.
Well, Lafley brought those division presidents down to the ground level. Literally sent a message, new era of collaboration. Customer focus was back.
It's like he was saying, get out of your ivory tower and into the trenches.
Exactly. But it wasn't just physical barriers. He knew they had to invest in their people. Double down on employee development, internal colleges and universities to train talent.
Like a mini university just for P&G employees?
Pretty much. They tracked employee performance meticulously, dedicated a whole board meeting every year to reviewing the top executives.
Wow, serious commitment.
Serious about leadership and expertise.
Lafley clearly believed in his people. But he also knew they'd lost touch with what people wanted. The consumer is boss. That was his mantra. And that's where things get really interesting.
Absolutely. That customer focus, it's key to understanding P&G's comeback. They went back to basics, revamped all 200 of their brands. But not just cosmetic changes. They looked at what consumers were actually struggling with.
So less about marketing hype, more about solving problems.
Exactly. Like, they saw people were tired of scrubbing stubborn stains. So what did they do? Tide stain brush.
The little brush thing.
Yep. Not just selling detergent, offering a solution to a real problem.
It's a great example of how they shifted, right? From like product-focused to actually thinking about the consumer.
Oh?
But they didn't stop there, did they? They went beyond just the usual household stuff. Beauty, personal care, even services like Mr. Clean car washes, Tide dry cleaners.
That's right. Bold move using those big names tied Mr. Clean to branch out like that.
Yeah. Is that a smart move? I mean, it seems risky going so far from what they know.
Some people thought so, but it shows they're willing to adapt, try new things.
It makes you wonder how much is a brand name worth? Like, would you trust a random car wash as much as one that says Mr. Plain?
Probably not. Probably not.
But even with all this innovation, things were about to get tough. Global recession hits, 2009. Bob McDonald takes over as CEO, walks right into that storm.
And he comes in with this whole purpose-inspired growth philosophy, which nowadays everyone's talking about purpose-driven business, but back then it was pretty new.
Right, like doing good is good for business.
Exactly. McDonald, he wanted P&G's growth to be about more than just profit. Make a positive impact on the world. That was the idea.
Sounds good, but how do you actually do that?
Well, that was the problem. It wasn't clear how that vision translated into actual action, concrete steps. P&G struggled to launch new hits.
So, good intentions, but maybe a little too vague. Especially during a recession, people are watching their wallets.
Exactly. And on top of that, P&G was losing ground to rivals in those emerging markets, the ones that were growing really fast.
So not a great time to be the CEO of P&G.
Tough time. McDonald's vision, it was admirable, but it lacked that focus, that execution you need to actually get results. And investors, they started to get antsy.
Yeah, they see growth slowing down, market share slipping. They want action.
They want action. So what do?
Bring back Lafley.
You got it. 2013, investors are unhappy. The board makes a big decision. Alan Lafley, back for round 2.
Can you imagine getting that call? Hey, we know you're retired, but...
Must have been quite the conversation. But it shows how much they trusted Lafley to fix things. And he knew right away what the problem was. P&G had gotten too big, too slow, too much bureaucracy.
Too much of a good thing.
Maybe. So what does he do? Another big overhaul. Remember all those brands they'd bought over the years? Lafley takes a chainsaw to that portfolio, sells off dozens of brands, streamlines the company, back to basics.
Wow, like Marie Kondoing a multi-billion-dollar corporation.
It was a bold move, no doubt. But it also kind of backfired in a way. Did you know that?
How so?
Some of those brands they sold, they actually did better under new ownership.
Really?
Yeah, companies like J.M. Smucker, they bought Crisco and Folgers, and those brands took off. Made people wonder, had P&G lost their touch?
It's almost like they were so focused on getting new brands, they forgot how to take care of the ones they already had.
And there's another thing. Remember Lafley's Connect and Develop, bringing in outside innovation? Well, even with that, they still struggled to integrate those new ideas.
So they were getting fresh perspectives, but couldn't quite make them work.
It's like having all the ingredients for an amazing meal, but not knowing how to cook.
So even with Lafley back, they were still stuck between that legacy of doing everything themselves and the need to be more flexible, more responsive.
Tough balance to strike. And in 2015, Lafley steps down again, passes the torch to David Taylor.
Taylor, okay.
He'd been with P&G a long time, successfully turned around their beauty unit, which was struggling, but he inherited a company still facing those same fundamental issues.
So what did Taylor focus on?
Well, he kept going with the brand reduction, sold off a massive chunk of their beauty brands, like 43 of them, to Coty in 2016. But he also knew they needed something more, a deeper change. They had to restructure the whole way they operated.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting. What did he do?
2019, major reorganization. Gave more power to the different business units, put them in charge of their own sales and marketing in key markets around the world. Decentralized power, basically.
So less top-down control, more freedom for the individual units.
Exactly. It was a radical move, trying to empower those closer to the customer, let them drive innovation.
Like cutting the red tape, getting out of the way. But was it enough to really transform P&G?
That's the big question. Could they break free from that old corporate structure, become more agile, more entrepreneurial? It was a gamble, a big one. And only time would tell if it would pay off.
So P&G has been a roller coaster, right? Innovation, disruption, reinvention. Makes you wonder, can they get back to that top spot? Can they keep up with today's market, be a true innovator again? And it's a question that goes way beyond just P&G, right? Think about it. How many brands that used to be like household names are struggling now?
So many.
Yeah, it's like P&G's story. It's almost a perfect example of what happens to big companies in today's world. Everything's changing so fast.
Absolutely. And what's fascinating about P&G is it's not like they weren't trying. They were constantly doing something, innovating, acquiring, restructuring.
Always on the move.
But were they asking the right questions? Were those innovations really solving problems for people? Or were they just focused on internal stuff, making the shareholders happy.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's like they were so busy chasing the next big thing, they forgot to ask, are we actually making things better for our customers?
Exactly. And in a world where consumers have so many choices, so much information, you can't afford to lose sight of that.
Right. You got to give people a reason to choose you.
And think about all the changes happening now. Direct-to-consumer brands, online shopping. Everyone wants sustainable products, transparency. It's a whole new ballgame.
And P&G, they're a legacy company. They've got to adapt to all that.
It's a huge challenge.
It's like this constant tension between, tradition and innovation. You've got this iconic company, long history, loyal customers. They really understand consumer behavior,
They've got the knowledge.
but they also need to be able to change, embrace new technology, new ways of doing things, stay ahead of the curve.
Tough balance to strike.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into P&G, what are the big takeaways? What should our listeners be thinking about?
Well, I think the biggest one is stay connected to your customer. No matter how big you are, how successful you are, you can't lose sight of that.
The customer's always right, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And then agility, adaptability. The world's changing fast. You got to be able to respond, adjust, try new things.
Can't be afraid to experiment.
Exactly.
And I think the last one is even the giants can fall, but they can also get back up, learn from their mistakes, reinvent themselves. PDG's story, it's not over yet. Be interesting to see what they do next.
Absolutely. And their story, it's got lessons for everyone, I think. No matter what you do, what industry you're in, you got to be innovating, adapting, staying connected to your customers.
Timeless principles.
Timeless.
Well, there you have it. A deep dive into the wild ride that is P&G's history. We saw the highs, the lows, the comebacks, the reinventions. It's a story that's still unfolding, and it makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What will the next chapter be? But that's the exciting part. We'll keep exploring, keep asking questions, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.